Welcome to another episode of ZMP Podcast. I'm your host, Thomas Markham, the founder of Zombie Media Publishing. Today, on today's show, I want to talk to you about preparing your film for distribution. Of course, I'm going to assume that you have all legal rights to your film, all elements involved in making the film, such as stock footage, music, and you've used your actors are all actually you have the rights and have them signed to some kind of agreement to do the film. But once you get all that basically done and you get into your editing phase, there's a few things you need to know that helps get your film distributed and published without a whole lot of hassle to you or your publisher, whether it's Zombie Media Publishing or someone else. Not all streaming services have the same requirements. There's a little bit of variation in each one of those, but you need to know the basics and what most require. When you're editing your film, there's a few things you need to be aware of to not put or place in your film. You cannot have colored bars or test tones in the film, and you cannot have any URL links. You can't have any URLs posted on the screen as a promo or advertisement or anything like that. You can't have if your host speaker has a website or something like that, you cannot put that on the screen. That usually gets your video flagged, and streaming services will want it. They will not accept it. They will not want it on their service. So that's something you need to be aware of. You also need to be aware of file formats. The most popular, of course, is probably the MP4, but most services will accept the MPG file or movie files, and there's a few other video files that streaming services will accept. And of course, you want to most likely go with the most popular, which is the MP4 if you can, high definition MP4 file. Okay, your frame rates. Now, frame rates are something that will vary per service slightly, but if you'll keep your frame rates usually between 23.7 and 30 frames per second, usually they're pretty much accepted to all services. Another thing to be aware of and keep in mind is your audio channels. Normally, the most accepted is a 2-channel stereo audio file that goes along with your film. It's built into your film. So that's something you need to be aware of on that. Let's assume now that you got your film completed and you've met these minimum, requirements. Now, for clients of Zombie Media Publishing, there's some things that we like. That is not necessarily, all people don't always. We do some deals with people who don't have this, but it's helpful if you already have it. Most streaming services, I'll say probably 95 to 98% of all streaming services, require a closed caption file for your film, and normally they want this in English. You can have other closed caption files in different languages, and I encourage you to do that. It's helpful for us if we're distributing your film and you have your closed captions in several languages. It's helpful. It gives us a bigger market to take your film to. If you don't have that, sometimes we do it on our own. We actually can offer that service to anyone out there that has closed caption file for your film and you need it translated, say, into Russian or whatever. We can actually do that. So if you feel free to reach out to us on that if you need a little help with that. We can do that for you. But for our clients who actually sign with us, you are required to have a closed caption file in English for your film. Sometimes we do deals with people who don't have this, and we actually forego that little option and pay to have the captions made ourselves. So you got to have that for your film. But if you don't, sometimes people like us, Zombie Media Publishing, will go out, and especially if it's a film we feel like it's going to reach a pretty good market, we don't care to spend a little extra money to get the captions made. But if you've already got that, it's really helpful for us and speeds up the process of getting your film to market. What else we like to have is a brief synopsis of the film, and this is what the consumer sees. Like when they go to almost any streaming service and they land on your film, you got a description of what basically the movie's about. This is a synopsis, and normally this runs around 250 to 300 words. It's not a good idea to have any kind of large cap letters. Of course, you capitalize your sentences and things like that, but just all caps. Description of your film is not good. The 250 to 300 characters, this normally includes spaces and everything. Some streaming services have slightly larger areas for this type of thing, and some of them actually have a little bit smaller, so it's a little bit difficult for us. Sometimes we have to edit. If you have a large synopsis, let's say a 500 word synopsis, sometimes we have to edit that down to appeal to certain streaming services, and we don't care to do that. That's just part of the job. Another thing that you need to have for your film is a trailer. I know sometimes people make films and they don't put together a trailer for it. You need some kind of trailer for your film, even if it's short, even if you have a hard time, like me on a personal level, I have a hard time cutting a good trailer out of my film, because there's a fine line between giving too much away and making it pique the consumer's interest to make them want to watch the film. But you do need some type of trailer for your film. Some other helpful items for us, if you're a client of ours, that helps us speed along the process, or even if you're not using our service, there's some other things that are very helpful to have and to be prepared to give who's distributing your film, even if it's even if you're self-distributing, which is very difficult sometimes. If you're not careful, you run into a whole lot of things where people want a lot of money and stuff like that. Zombie Media Publishing very, very rarely requires any upfront money. We do this, and we take a small percentage of the sales, and we take your film to the world. We've got films playing in 73 different countries right now, and this list is growing, and we hope to make it even more. But there's some things you need that will help you get your film distributed and help speed up the process. Sometimes a sales pitch. A lot of services like a short sales pitch. Usually we do this ourselves, but if you have a sales pitch that you would like to present, we're happy to take it. A sales pitch may be something that you feel like a distributor like me or a streaming service needs to know about the film. That makes it more appealing. Something like maybe your film appeals to a large audience, and you want to highlight this, that this is an action film that appeals to a certain demographic. You may want to highlight that. That way it gives us an idea of how to market the film as well. So that's something that you could actually have that is helpful. Sometimes distributors, even us, we like it sometimes, and we like to have a what we call a tagline. It's a few words or maybe one sentence at the most that kind of sums up the film. You'll see this a lot, that like some of the horror movies, I think Halloween had some, or something like when Evil Returns Home, or The Night the Shape Come Home, or something like that. It's kind of gives a just short sentence of about the film. I call it a tagline a lot of times. The Never-Ending Journey or something like that. Just a tagline that kind of sums up the film basically in one word, or a few words, or one sentence. Sometimes that is difficult to do, but most places like for you to have that. I know when we list your film on Internet Movie Database, there's a spot where we can add a tagline, and this is something that helps the film. It kind of gives, like I say, overview of the film in one sentence. Another thing that we like to have is a listing of your cast and crew members. This also helps us when we list your film on Internet Movie Database. We don't want to leave anyone out. We want to know your producers, your directors, your cast members, and the characters that they play. Let's say you got Joe Dirt as your as one of your cast members. That's actually a guy's name. Let's say Joe Dirt, and Joe Dirt played the character of police officer number 2. Well, when you send that to us, you have Joe Dirt, and you also have his character that he played, policeman number 2. That helps us when we go into the Internet Movie Database and we log this title in. And some of the streaming services also have places for you to add in cast members, and so that's really helpful for us if we got that information and we don't have to keep contacting you to try to get the information. So that's something helpful to any distributor, but it's something that we really like. Another thing you got to consider is your artwork. The artwork varies per streaming service, but there are some standards that you basically need to know about that almost all of them require. Normally you'll have to have a landscape and a portrait image for your film, and these need to be consistent. They need to be the same imagery, the same fonts and things like that. You got to have consistency in this. Normally you need a 1920 by 1080 pixel image. Normally these have to be a JPEG or a PNG file. You can't have a Photoshop file that's editable, that you can edit. That's not acceptable. It has to be a JPEG or a PNG file most of the time, if not all the time. And you'll also for a portrait image, you'll need a 1400 by 2100 pixel image of your artwork for your film. It can't be stretched. I know a lot of times people do this. They'll take a certain image that they're using for their artwork, and if they need it bigger or smaller, they'll stretch it, and it kind of makes it look funny. Makes the text look funny, and it can't be a padded image. A padded image where you fill up the background with something else and have that on top of it. Have your main artwork on top of it. And like I said, all artwork should use the same imagery. If you're doing a season, most of the time they recommend that you do not put what season number it is. Say it's season number 3, but you don't want to put Living in the Wilderness season 3. You just want to put it as Living in the Wilderness. And you shouldn't have any promos on your artwork. Most streaming services don't want this. They don't even like the actor's name, or if you've won some kind of festival award, the laurels, they don't like that on the box art most of the time. Some places will accept them that way, but most of the time they want a clean box art, which is just your streaming art with no presented by, no URLs, no other text other than the title and the artwork for the film. That's what most streaming services are looking for. But that's some of the things that, if you are preparing your film for distribution, you've got to know some of these things, because once you say you sign with us and we are working hard to get your film distributed to as many places as we can to maximize, the return on your investment in making the film, it slows us down if we have to go back and fix some of this stuff. And sometimes we have to. That's part of being a publisher, is preparing your film to distribute it. Sometimes we do have to do some edits. I know recently a film that that we worked on, it had a URL in the film when the camera goes back to the host and he is setting up. It was a documentary. He's setting up the next scene, the next part of the documentary. It had his name and his affiliation with the film, and then it had a URL which directed people to, I'm not even sure, I don't remember what the actual website went to, but you can't have that kind of thing. So we had to go in and, just to make it simple, we just went in and took a black bar and put it over the URL. That way it would pass for the most streaming services where the film could be picked up. And I'm happy to say that film was actually picked up by Tubi TV, and it's on Amazon. So I mean, that's two good places to have the film, which would maximize your return. And there's still a possibility that it will be picked up by many others, because we've not actually had it placed for distribution very long, and it slowed us down because we had to fix that one little particular thing where it had the URL in the film, and it didn't appear every time, but it appeared, I don't know, several times. So we had to go through and edit that, and by blocking it out, which I don't think that looks very good on a finished product, but sometimes you have to do that to get it distributed to the maximum amount of places. And another thing too that is important, we had another film we recently worked on, and there was an intro before the film by the cast and crew, and then at the end of the film there was some kind of shout outs type thing at the end of the film. Well, those had to go. We had to edit those out. That's something we can include on a DVD release, but for streaming, it's got to be for your film, from just the start of the film to the end of the film through the credits. You can't have the bonus content most of the time, or probably 99% of the streaming services. It has to be just the film cut and dry from start to finish. So that's a few things that I wanted to share with you today on this little podcast. I'll tell you about some shows we got coming up. I've lined up a director and an actor who signed with us, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 months ago. He's got a fascinating story. His film also is partially, or mostly I should say, about his life. We're going to have him on here in hopefully the coming few days to talk about his life in general and how he got into acting and directing, and we're going to of course talk about his film. And then we got an author lined up as well, that we're going to have him on and talk about. He has written 3 books that we have published for him, and they've done quite well. They're actually good reads. I've actually read them as well. So we're going to have him on here in a short period of time, hopefully within the next week or 2. But today I wanted to make this podcast about how to get your film prepared for distribution, and some of the things you needed to know. Sometimes we get films that they don't have a trailer, they don't have a caption files, they don't even have a synopsis about the film. So if you've got some of those things, it makes the process faster and helps us get the product out quicker. And there's, like I say, there's things we can add on DVDs that we can't have in a streaming version of the film. So if you've got extras or shout outs or behind the scenes look at the film, we can, most of the time we can include that in a DVD or Blu-ray release, but we cannot include it in a streaming version of the film. But that's just some of the things I think you need to be aware of. As far as your artwork goes, I gave you a couple basic sizes there. Sometimes if we get those 2 basic sizes, we can use those to scale them up or down without stretching them and still meet the requirements of some of the streaming services. But if you have a poster art, or a poster art, of course, is slightly different. Especially if it is a something you're going to sell copies of the poster. Of course, you can have your actors' names and things like that on those, but for the actual streaming art itself, they like for it to be clean. When I say clean, I mean it's just the title of the film and the artwork. And sometimes if you don't have artwork, we'll make artwork for, let's say for example, if your film is going to be placed in Germany, sometimes we'll change the font to be in German on the box art, and what appeals to maybe people in Germany as far as the graphic content of the box art, the streaming art, it might be slightly different from what maybe here in the United States would appeal to someone. So sometimes we have to adjust that way, but we want to keep our box art or streaming art consistent. We want to use the same type fonts most of the time, and we want to keep the same imagery. So if we got a guy riding a bicycle, we want that guy riding a bicycle on all of our streaming arts, regardless of the country or the streaming service, because we want that consistency to that when they see that, they know that that's your film, the Bicycle Bandit or something, whatever we want to call it, whatever the name of the film is. But that's just a few things that I think you need to be aware of that really helps and speeds up the process of getting your film distributed. So I'm going to call it a show for today, and I look forward to talking to you guys soon again, and hopefully in the coming week we'll have a few special guests and stuff to improve the show. But I want to give tips. I want to help you guys. I want to help the filmmakers. Ultimately, for us to be successful, our clients, our filmmakers, our authors, our musicians, they have to be successful too. And if they're successful and they use us as a distributor and as a publisher, that makes us successful. So I want to try to help you the best I can with the things that are required by streaming services or whatever, and artwork and things like that. I want to try to point you in the right direction. I'll never intentionally give you bad information. Sometimes things change. What was required 2 or 3 years ago is slightly different than what is required today. So we may have to update some of our standard and requirements. But also, if you sign with us, we're actually working on your product, on your film, music, book, whatever. We do stay in contact with you back and forth, and if we need information, we got to be able to get a hold of you. So anytime you distribute your film or you sign with any company, you need to make sure your information is up to date as far as emails, or if sometimes we use Facebook, if it's somebody we know, we've signed off of Facebook, they have a Facebook account, they're a client of ours and they have a Facebook account, we can easily contact them that way if we have a question about a certain artwork, or do you have this, do you have that, or how do you spell this person's name, I can't hardly make it out, things like that. So we want to get correct spelling. We don't want anyone to not get credit for taking part in a film or any kind of product or production or whatever. We want to give people credit, because being filmmakers ourselves, it's a very sometimes hard, tiresome process, and once you do that and you get into the editing phase, it's easy to let small things slip by, because by the time you get to the editing phase and the distribution phase, you're wore out. You've put in a lot of man hours, you've had a lot of computer time and things like that, and it's easy to let some of these little things just kind of linger away, slip past you and slip out of your mind. So I wanted to share that with you guys today, and I'm going to wrap this episode up, and I will see you guys next time. I thank you for the support. Please go to zombiemediapublishing.com to find out more about us. Like and subscribe. Once we get our subscriber base up, maybe we can do some extra things as far as posting films up for everybody to watch for free, but we would need to run ads on that, so we've got to get our numbers up so we can start doing that, because we want to, if we do that, if we get to that point, we want to, of course, take care of our clients who have signed with us and give them their revenue off of anything we do like that. But like and subscribe and spread the word, and we thank you guys for the support. You can also find us on Facebook, so look us up on there, and you guys have a great day.